Okay, so while we're getting up the program, right, to connect between YouTube, also, let's just take the time out to basically reflect on yesterday, right? So, you guys, how was yesterday's session? I hope you guys actually enjoyed. The recording is on YouTube for those that weren't able to attend the live yesterday, right? And if it's that for some reason you haven't received the link to yesterday's presentation, as in yesterday's folder. Okay, so sorry about that. I actually muted myself because I was receiving something. Okay, so welcome back to another Adobe Photoshop training session put on by the Commuters publication. Give me a minute so you guys can see me. Okay, so this is me. All right, so welcome back, guys. To another Adobe Photoshop training session put on by the Commuters publication committee here at the UA Mona campus in Kingston, Jamaica. My name is Bobby Smith, the UA Mona Committing Students Publication Committee Chairperson, and I will be your host for this afternoon session. As you know, we'll be having a 1 week of activity geared towards understanding how Photoshop works and how to start creating wonderful masterpieces. Sessions will run from 1 to 3 p.m. daily Eastern Standard Time, and we will be having a one talented individual each day showing us the ropes in mastering the art of Photoshop. I guarantee you won't regret being here. Okay, so we do apologize for the individuals who were unable to receive emails, updates, and those who have been having issues regarding installation. We have successfully retrieved and sent out the Adobe Photoshop software to our Mac users. These emails keep returning void, so if you are the recipient or if you are in contact with these email, then please message us your correct email address and message it in the chat, and our PRO will get back to you on it. All right, so the first email is Pauline Parnell02 at UA Mona Edu, UA.Mona Edu. You have Solomon C19 at yahoo.com. You have Senator Morris, Senator.Morris at UA uamona.edu.jm. We have Judine Lawrence at gmail.com. We have Camby Francis, that's Camby Francis, 4 at gmail.com. We have Antoinette.Ricketts at, oh, I see email.com, so that probably would be gmail.com. So that's a typo. So that probably could fix. So that's Antoinette.Ricketts at, I think I'm seeing email.com, so it's probably gmail.com. The next one is Latania Winter, Latania Winter at gmail.com, and Salaman.Cummins at mymona.ua.edu. And you have Nokoi, that's NUCOLYE dot W at youtube.com. So if you guys know these persons, or if you are these persons, then just kindly message the correct email in the chat and our PRO will accept with acknowledge receipt. Okay, so for the individuals using other devices, please listen to the instruction that will follow to successfully download the software. All right, so these are for all the window user, right? So how to download, instructions on how to download. All right, so first you will click the link. It will bring you to a folder you will right click on the folder, right? Don't click into the folder to access the individual file. So just right click on the folder itself. And then after that, you will use any extractor software to extract the folder, right? And after you extract the folder, you will install the application by clicking the setup, because when once you extract it, it will give you the corrected file, the formatted file, right? And then you click the setup, right? And but before it's set up, it will, there's that window, Adobe Creative Cloud will pop up, right? So all you have to do is just sign in. So you can sign in with your email address. And once that is finished, then Photoshop, it will tell you that you can go ahead and install Photoshop, because two Adobe software cannot run at the same time, cannot run simultaneously. Especially, no, I mean the cloud, and when it's installed, it cannot install simultaneously. I mean, and then once you do all of that, then you'll be able to access Photoshop. I've received a lot of emails from persons saying that they have gotten access to Photoshop. So if you haven't, just remember to put it in the chat, and our PRO will acknowledge, and then we will get to you as best as possible, right? So continuing, if you are not already, I am encouraging you to follow the social media handles of our partner who made this event even possible. So at first that that's Yui Mona on Instagram, Yui Commuters on Instagram, sorry, Yui Commuters underscore PCC, Yui Mona Guild, Yui WJC Guild, One Guild STA, Kville Guild, Open Campus Guild, Five Islands Guild, Elson Daily, ink photo. So that's Elton, ELTON dot DALUI, and ink photo as in INKFOTOS. They're all Instagram. All right. So, okay. So yesterday we have received numerous feedbacks regarding the asking of questions in yesterday session. So today we have set out to add a little structure to the chat room, right? So if you have a question about the Adobe Photoshop installation, or how to install fonts, images, etc. to your computer and Photoshop, then please do so when the PRO opens the chat with the icon, or where with the letter Q, or just use it for icon. So Q. So whenever you see Q in the chat, it means that you can now ask your question regarding installation, regarding how to install fonts, images, etc. Right? Which then she will answer by with a response with answer, so that the letter answer ANS. So she will respond with that. So please bear us as we work assiduously to assist you in the best way we know possible, as there are close to 1,000 people registered for the Adobe Photoshop training session. So we really solicit your patience and mannerism. Okay, so on to the fun part, right? So our presenter for today's session is none other than Shanil Aymoff. She is a 26-year-old mother of three, wife, marketing major, digital communication consultant, and entrepreneur who believes in the power of innovation and creativity. Yeah, Shanil. From an early age, Shani has always expressed keen interest in community development, youth advocacy, and volunteerism. Currently, she is the PRO of the Wallins Nature Reserve Board and Youth MP for St. Peter in the National Youth Parliament of Antigua and Barbuda. Yay, big up Antigua. Over the last 2 years, Shani has been developing her personal and professional profile by founding, yeah, by founding and operating the first grocery delivery app in Antigua and Barbuda. Yeah, innovation right there. She has represented our Twin Island nation of Curacao, winning the road to the Global Entrepreneurship Summit Hackathon. Most recently, she has selected for the Global 1000 out of 10 out of 100,000 entrepreneurs from around the world to pitch at the MISC Global Forum in Saudi Arabia. Shani is passionate about economic diversification, youth empowerment, and fostering a powerful entrepreneurial ecosystem in Antigua and Barbuda. She believes that policies must be put in place to ensure that everyday Antiguans and Barbudans can have access to the necessary resources that will ensure their success, growth. Talk about leadership, please. My viewers and everyone that is in the reach of my voice, whether on Zoom or YouTube, please help me welcome Shanil Aima to the virtual stage by posting clapping emoji or just any supportive emoji in the chat section. So Shanice, welcome. I'm glad to be a part. You can take over.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that awesome introduction, Bobby. It is a pleasure to be here, and I cannot wait for us to get started. So, just a little further background, I am actually a self taught graphic designer. When I was leaving the Antigua State College, my friends and I decided we wanted to have an event. And we said, okay, what are we going to do? We had this candy themed event, and we went to a few persons trying to get a design for a flyer that everyone liked, and we just couldn't find it. We just could not find that it flyer that we were looking for. And I'm the type of person, I am a problem solver. So what I did is I got Photoshop from a friend of mine, and I decided to sit down and play around with it a little bit, and I came up with something and everyone loved it. And I said, okay, maybe this is something that I should go into. So since then, since then, I have been working in Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe InDesign, and most recently Adobe Premiere Pro and Adobe Audition to work with video. So today we're going to learn about layers in Adobe Photoshop. It's one of those basic things that we tend to overlook when it comes to Photoshop, but it's incredibly important in terms of our productivity and our effectiveness when designing in Adobe Photoshop. So, Bobby, would everyone have gotten the folder that I would have sent already? Bobby, let me check the chat and see. Okay, everybody. Okay, so yes, okay, I see some persons. Okay, so Leanne is asking which folder. So the folder, I would have sent it to the commuting students committee already. It is a folder with all of the information that you're going to need for today. It's a really small folder, just a quick tutorial basically on the different aspects of layers. So I can actually find it right now for those who don't have it and post it in the chat. Ah, there it is. I think, yes, Samoya has posted it in the chat. So if you haven't received it, Samoya has posted it in the chat. So I'll just wait a few seconds and just let everyone reply in the affirmative when they have downloaded the folder. All right, so I see another yes here. Another yes. And you don't have to use the source material that I have here because we're not actually creating anything per se. We're just looking at the layers panel, what layers are, how to use them, and why they're important in Adobe Photoshop. All right, yes, yes, got it. Awesome. Okay, everything is moving rather swimmingly. All right, so right now we are going to open, Adobe Photoshop. All right, we're sharing my screen right now. Are we seeing my screen? Me can turn off your mic and answer. Turn on your mic and answer. Yes, yes. Okay, everybody's seeing my screen.
Yes, I'm seeing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm talking to myself. So and also at any point during this tutorial, if you feel like you need to ask a question, please feel free to stop me and ask a question. If I'm going too fast, if I'm going too slow, just feel free to let me know, okay? Don't like feeling like I'm talking to myself. Right? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to open our folder here. And the first thing we're going to open is understanding layers. That's the first file we're going to open, understanding layers. You can follow along with me with your files here. You see how everything is right there on the screen. Everything's kind of big. I'm not seeing anything. Just a quick Photoshop shortcut you could use is the Control for Windows or Command for Mac and minus, and it zooms out for you. So you can see everything. You can see everything a little better. So the first thing we're going to look at is the Layers panel. So the Layers panel is located right over here in Adobe Creative Cloud. Right? It shows you all of your layers, their names, and all of your layer controls. Now, if you don't see your Layers panel, you can display your Layers panel by going to the top menu right here, going to Window, and hitting Layers, or using the shortcut F7. So that will show your Layers panel in Adobe Photoshop. We have our Layers panel open right now. And just quickly, at the top by the Home button, you see a little thing right here that says Auto Select Group or Auto Select Layers. Now, what Auto Select Layers does is that it enables you to select the layer right on the artboard where everything is that is called the artboard. It allows you to select the layer right on the artboard without having to go over and select it manually in the Layers panel. Now, if I turn off Auto Select Layer, I can't do that anymore. I actually have to go over into the Layers panel and select with my mouse. Now, I prefer the Auto Select Layer being on because it's easier to just click, select a layer, and move it around. Right. So now, for me, layers are sort of the building blocks of any image in Photoshop. They are kind of like separate flat planes of glass stacked on top of one another. So, and each layer contains separate content. And yes, so Liana is asking, the individual photos is what you refer to as layers. Yes, in this instance, the individual photos are what I'm referring to as layers. You can have anything on a layer. It doesn't have to be a photo. It can be a shape. It can be text as well. It can be anything. But layers, what they do is they separate this content for you. They separate the content for you. So all those individual photos that you see right here, they're all on separate layers. Now, why that is important is that let's say you want to make one of these bigger or make one of these smaller. Because they're all on separate layers, you are able to actually edit each one of these individually. So before we get to that, I just want to show you some stuff on the Layers panel in terms of visibility. Now, these layers are, these two small layers over here that I have selected are overlapping this large layer. Now, if you want to see that entire image, okay, what do? You see these little eyes over here? You can click on these little eyes over here, and that's called toggling the visibility, right? So you can click the empty box and you show the eyes again. Once the eyes are showing, that means your layer should be showing. Once it's clicked off, that means your layer is going to be invisible. And just like a quick shortcut in Photoshop, if you just want one layer to be visible, instead of having to click through all of these layers one by one, you hit the Alt or Alt in Windows and Option in Mac, and the layer you want open, and it automatically hides the rest layers. And then to show them, you just do the same thing all over again. The more of these little shortcuts and so you start to learn is the easier your design process will be. You don't have to go through clicking 1, 2, 1, 2, especially when you're working with timelines. And we're all UE students, so we know about timelines and last minute. So if you're on a timeline, it's very important to know all of these shortcuts, you know? So essentially, layers make it easier to edit the parts of your design in Photoshop in a much easier way. So that's the first part in terms of understanding how layers work. Is everybody with me so far? Yes, yes, yes. Oh, excellent. Everybody's with me so far. Are there any questions so far? See, Judah saying, yes, you're answering me for if you're with me, Judah, or do you have a question? Oh, questions. Okay, so I have questions here. Candice, go ahead, Candice.
Right, so I got a bit lost after the part where you were talking about the layers, and right here where I see your side panel, I was wondering how you got that to be open.
The layers panel right here.
Yeah, right there. Like
Okay.
I get the picture up, but I'm not sure what was going on the side.
Okay, no problem. So if your layer panel is not showing automatically when you open Photoshop, you can go up to the toolbar here, that toolbar here with file, edit, image there, and you will see window. And then if you come down, you will see layers, and make sure layers is ticked. That is how you see your layers panel.
So how do you get it ticked? Because mine is not ticked.
Yours is not ticked. You just click on it.
Oh, okay.
Just click on it. Did it work for you?
Yeah, mine look like yours.
Excellent. All right, Candice. Okay, so we have another. Judah has an error. So tell me, Judah, what's going on for you? Judah, you hearing me? What's going on for you? Which error are you having? This is Judah. I'm not even gonna try that one. Sorry, Judah. Yes. Okay. No, I don't have a question. It was an error in Zoom. Okay, excellent. Okay. Aliyah Francis says my right hand side does not look like yours. Aliyah, are you still having the same issue, or are you?
No, I got it when you answered her question. I did the same thing with the window and I got it.
And you got it. All right, awesome. Liam Douglas is asking, how do we get this software? It should have been sent in your email. I think Bobby would be able to answer that one for you. Bobby, are you there?
Oh yes, I am. Thank you. Okay, so what happened is that we sent out two versions of the Adobe, right? We sent out one for the Mac. We sent that out yesterday by wire transfer, by WeTransfer. And for those that have Windows, we sent out the Windows one, well, initially. So that was the first one sent to all the active emails, right? So if it's that you don't receive an installation email, it would mean that your email address, it was bounced or it was kind of incorrect or something, right? Because when we were sending the emails, a lot of emails return not found, or inbox full, or something along that line. The error is along that line. So that's why we ask you, if it's that you have an email. If it's that you haven't received it, you can text your email in the chat room, and my PR will get it to you. And for those persons having problem installing, message in the chat room too. My PR will give you the number. So if anything, you could text me on WhatsApp, and then I will walk you through the installation. All right, Shanice, right back to you.
All right, awesome. So sorry about that. Still working, still working. Okay. I'm trying to follow. Liana says, I'm trying to follow the steps, but it says that the file format for the layers basic is not supported. Okay, Liana, you can unmute your mic and tell me when you went into your, for the layers basics, when you went into your folder, did you choose the file, did you choose the folder, the Mac folder, or did you choose the regular folder?
I did not, when I tried to download the folder, I did not see the folder on my desktop, so I downloaded the individual images that were there. And when I opened Adobe Photoshop, and then it tells you to select picture, and then I went and select layers basic, it said that the file format is not supported. It has to be .gpg or I don't remember what the other one it says.
Okay, that is super interesting. Did you check your downloads folder for the entire folder?
Yes, I checked my downloads, but I'm gonna check again.
Check again for me because they're regular PSD files and JPEG files that should open. That should open for you. Tanya Joseph. Tanya says, I'm not seeing this when I go in. While you look at that, I'm gonna answer Tanya. Tanya, what are you not seeing? Tanya, are you there? You
Oh,
got
she
it?
said she
Okay.
got it.
Okay, I just saw she got it. The screen that is this video. Okay, she got it. Excellent. Good stuff. Good stuff, Tanya. All right, great. So we're waiting on Liana right now. So she's saying that the file format isn't supported. So while we wait on Liana, we can now go to, let me see what is next. Layers basics, that PSD file that we can open that one. We can open that one now. Check my notes for a moment. So yes, layer basics. So as you can see, the layers over here, they're ordered in a certain way. The tailor is there, the cloth is there, and the pattern is at the bottom. And they're both, the tailor and cloth are overlapping the pattern. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see perfectly. Okay, better. So let's just say you didn't want the tailor and the cloth to overlap the pattern. You wanted the pattern to overlap that. How then do you restructure your layers? One thing about working in layers is that you can always move them around, right? You can always move them around. So if you want the pattern layer to be at the top, we simply click on it in the layers panel and we drag it up. Now you have to ensure that you see that blue line at the top there. You have to ensure that you see that. And all you do is you let it go. So now that is at the top and these are now at the bottom of that layer.
Can you just repeat how you got this window up?
Oh, I got this up. Okay, so can you see my folder that's open?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I would have gone to the layers basics folder here from the download. You're seeing this?
I'm seeing the layer screen, but I don't see the individual folder. Wait.
So open your download, like unzip your zip and everything and go into that for me. You should see these two things here. You got it unzipped?
It's not. it's not downloading the entire zip file. When I try to download everything, it just keeps saying preparing download, and it's not downloading everything.
Downloading everything. Okay, let me try to copy link address. I'm going to send in the chat the direct link because I actually got these straight from Adobe's website. So there's actually a direct link. I just sent it. So tell me if you're able to download it from there.
All right.
Hold on for me for 1 second. Hello. You can open it. It's open. And put it inside. Okay. Are you getting through, Tanya?
Okay, I have the zip file now.
You have the zip file now. Excellent. So you're going to unzip your file for me. You can right click on it and hit extract all or however your computer works. This is switching from the. Okay, I'm going to come to you in 1 second, Ali. I see your concern right there. Okay. We're all unzipped.
One moment.
Problem. Okay, so while you work on that, Aliyah, mine isn't getting highlighted like yours. It's just switching from layers. Okay, highlighted how? You can turn on your mic and explain for me.
Like when you click it, I'm seeing the lines around yours and it have the box to the corners and stuff. Mine not doing that.
Okay, so let me show you how to do that. Now, in the same panel there where I showed you how to auto select the layer earlier, you'll see a little house, and then you'll see some other controls that says auto select and show transform controls. Do you see that there with a checkbox?
Okay, yes, and now come
Check
on.
the box for me.
Okay, I got it.
Check the box, you can see your transform controls. I think that is helpful because it shows you the boundaries of your layer. It shows you what you're working with and you're actually, especially when you have auto select layer selected, you can see what all is in the layer when you show your transform control. So that was a very, very good question. Tanya, how are we getting through there? Not very good. Oh no, I'm so sorry. But for the purposes of learning about the layers, you don't necessarily need the documents. That's why I structured the tutorial in a type of way that you can actually use your own documents or you can just follow along in Photoshop. So if it is that you're not getting through, you can still follow along with us in Photoshop because I'm just showing you sort of the basics and how to use layers and the layers panel. So if you're not getting through, you can also alternatively do it that way.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, Ramona.
Is it gonna be an issue if we only have one name at the top of our thing and you have two?
No, it's not going to be an issue at all. It's really just to show you how the layers work. The photos and the styles that you use are sort of inconsequential, but it's just made it easier for some to follow along with what I have. So
Okay,
if you're following along with what you have, you're good.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So Renata is asking, how do I get the ruler at the top and left side of the window? Oh, yes. So you would no, that's Illustrator, sorry. So you go to your menu up here and you hit view and you hit rulers. Alternatively, for Windows, it's Control R, and for Mac, it's Command R. So you can show your rulers. So you can actually see how big the document is that you're working with. The rulers as well are pretty important. So that is how you do that. All right, so we can get to the layers basics now. So we've understood layers. So Candice, go on. Candice, what do you need me to repeat? The ruler part? Okay, yes. You go to view and you go all the way down to here and you view rulers. I'm going to turn off mine. They're no longer there. Or you can do Control R to turn them on and off. Just for the last time, view rulers. So that's how you show your ruler. All right, good to go? Awesome, no problem. All right, so we are at layers basics, right? So we've already shown how we can reorganize our layers. Bobby, Natalie Ramratan does not have the software. So you can try to help her out with that one.
Yes. So just for those that don't have the software, send an email to us indicating which computer you're using, if it's a Windows or a Mac, so we could tailor the link.
Okay, excellent. All right. So if you don't have the software, you can send an email to them so they can send the requisite link to you. The next thing we're going to do is learn how to add a new layer. So there are a few ways to add a new layer in Photoshop. The first one is by clicking this little sticky note here at the bottom. You can say, okay, if you want it above the pattern layer, you click on the pattern layer and then you click that little sticky note and voila, you have your layer coming up and it's automatically named layer 1. You can do it that way, or you can use the layer options in the menu, layer, new, layer. And with this, what you can do is that you can actually customize a lot about your layer before it's created. So you can name your layer now, new layer. You can give it a color. I'm going to make mine orange. And you can set the opacity, however you pronounce it. Let's say 51%. So now we've created a brand new layer. And I gave the layer a color so I can identify it. That's also a good shortcut to use, right? So you can identify your layers easier. If things are connected, so you can have all your picture layers. And just right click and choose a color. So all the picture layers can be in yellow. So you know, okay, those layers with yellow are pictures, those layers with orange are text. So you can do something like that to organize your workflow a bit better. So those are two ways to add a layer. Actually, there's a third as well. Once again, the shortcuts, which will be Control or Command, Shift, and N, and it brings up that layer modal, that same layer modal for you. So you can do that to create a new layer. Now, you've created a new layer above the pattern layer, but then you realize, I don't want this layer there anymore. What you can do, as we did earlier, is just drag it up or drag it down. As I would have said earlier, layers don't have to have on pictures, right? So let's say we want to do something like, I want to drag it back down above pattern. Let's say you want to do something like paint on the layer, right? You're gonna select your brush tool. You're gonna select a bright color. Let's say like, I'm going to go with the 5 Islands teal to match my shirt. I'm gonna go with our teal for 5 Islands to match my shirt. And you can just paint. And so remember, the layer is set to 51%. So you're still seeing what's under it because the opacity is set to 51%. So what I've done is I've painted over this thing here. And then you look at this and you realize, boy, that didn't look good enough. So because you've been working in layers, what you can do, you can either hide the layer for later, or you can simply just delete the layer. So had you not had that layer above the pattern layer and you would have painted on the pattern layer, even though you can just undo, it's a lot easier to play around with the layers than to actually paint on your actual photos, because after a while it's going to become a bit cumbersome if you realize you've made a mistake. So working with a lot of layers, well, not too much, but the right amount of layers gives you that wiggle room in case you make mistakes throughout your design. Everybody with me?
Can you repeat that step, please?
Which one is that?
The one where you're coloring the layer,
Okay,
where
no
you
problem.
spray paint the thing.
I'm gonna put back my new layer. New What I did, I went over to the toolbar. I have my toolbar set in two columns here. Not everybody's is gonna look like this, but it really doesn't matter. That's just how I've done it forever. So I select my brush. I go here in the color picker. I picked the teal for five islands color to match my shirt. I selected okay. Now this layer I have is at 100%. The other one was at 50. And all you do is you paint over. Okay, I'm gonna paint over this thing. Paint it, paint it, paint it. And you're like, if you don't like it, if there's something else you'd like to do to it, you can feel free. You can feel free to just remove it, remove the visibility, or you can delete it. So I have two questions here. How do you select which pics or text are in a layer? So most times when you're working in Photoshop, if you drag a photo in, which would be the third lesson today, it will most likely automatically create a layer if you're embedding a photo. Now with text, text also creates its own layer. You don't have to create a new layer to put text in. Text layers, right? But if you're, and shape layers as well. But if you're doing something like a brush tool or pencil tool or pen tool, you have to create the layer, make sure the layer is selected in the layer panel, and then you paint on that layer. Is that clear for you, Candice? Yeah, awesome. Okay, Judah was having a problem, but he got it to work. Good job, Judah. So Leanne is asking, the window at the right side that shows the layers, gradient, and has those icons, how did you bring it up? The layer panel right here. Who's that asking? Liana, this panel right here with all the layers.
Yes.
Okay, so now it's gone. You're using a PC, right? Windows PC?
Yes.
Hit F7 and it should come up.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And alternatively, you can go to Window and go down and select, make sure layers is ticked off. Right?
All right.
So there's no need to make it complex by using a lot of unnecessary layers. Correct. A lot of times person use a lot of layers that are not necessary, and it makes the design a little bit more complex than it has to be. But you have to make sure you have a balance in terms of layers. One thing you can do, if you realize you have a whole ton of layers, is you can create groups. You can group layers. So and I have another one here. How do you edit your layer? You have to make sure the layer is selected in the layer panel. So you have your little hand tool right there. Just make sure that the layer you want to edit is highlighted. Make sure that's highlighted. And if you have the auto select layer turned on, you can just click on the image in the layer that you'd like to edit.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering, because when I was trying to create my layer, I was wondering, how do I select the pictures that you selected in your layer? But I wasn't sure how to do that.
Right, so that's how you get that done. So the layer that you want to edit, just always make sure it is selected, or you're going to be painting or drawing on another layer.
Okay. And what if you create a layer that you don't want anymore? Like, can you touch undo? Is that in Adobe?
You can, like for me, when I'm working, I tend not to delete things until I'm done, because then you might want it in the end. You're like, beans, I already deleted it. So what you can do is you can toggle the visibility. You can, that little eye there, that little eye eye icon, you press on it and you can just remove it for now.
Oh,
and if you decide at the end you really don't want it, you can either hit your delete or backspace button to delete the layer, or you can go at the bottom here where my mouse is, that little trash bin, and that deletes the layer for you. All right, okay, so next question. Samantha says, mine says could not use history brush because the history state does not contain a corresponding layer. Okay, so you have your history, you selected the wrong brush, Samantha. So you would have selected the history brush. Above the history brush is a regular brush tool. The shortcut for the brush tool is the letter B. So if you want to select the brush tool, you can either go right here, right under the eyedropper, And right next to the stamp is the brush tool. Right under it is the history brush, which is a little confusing to me. Like, why would you put that there? Because it's very easy to just mix up the two of them because they're not that different. Or you could simply hit the letter B and you have your brush tool. Liana, how come you colored some layers, but I don't actually see that they are yellow? So the colors for the layers is just to identify in the layer panel what they are. When I'm doing designs in Photoshop, I tend to give a layer color or a group color based on what is in the layer or group. So if we have, let's say, pictures in a couple layers, I will say all picture layers are going to be this color. All text layers are going to, so it's just kind of to identify them in the layer panel and not necessarily in the image itself. Okay, Anna is asking, how did you get your background to be white minus checkered? So the background for most of these should be white. Anna, are you using the images from the folder, the Photoshop file from the folder?
Yeah, yes, I am. But
Okay.
it came out like with my background checkered, like when I move the backmost one like to the side.
Okay,
If
so what do you mean? Okay, so did you toggle the visibility like the I button, the I button next to the background layer? Did you click it on or off?
no, mine didn't come with a background layer actually.
Yours didn't come in the background layer. That's very strange. So that's a good segue into the background layer, right? So what the background layer is a stationary layer. You can't really do that much with it. So you can't move it or resize it or anything because that is the background. Now, in the event that you don't have a background layer like Anna, what you can do is you create a layer, like how I showed earlier with the little sticky note. You make sure it's selected. You go to layer, you go to new, and layer from, no, not that one. Background. Yeah. What you can do, you add your color. You can make it any color you want. We can do this one in white with the tool here. I'm going to take off my background layer. So, I have the checkered background. If you definitely want to have a background, you can color your background and then that little padlock and lock it. And then you basically have turned that into your background layer if you already don't have a background layer. If you already do, then that's not necessary. But if you somehow don't have a background layer, you can create your own background layer. Right?
Oh, I see. Thank you so much.
No problem. So Travell says, can multiple pictures be on the same layer? Yes, they can. You can have any amount of things on the same layer, right? It just depends on what you're designing and what your design style is. For me, I'm extremely minimal and I like things to be as straightforward as possible. So I tend to keep just one thing per layer because it's easier to maneuver the files, especially when you're doing work for clients and they want this change, they want that change. Sometimes if multiple things are on a layer, it's very difficult to edit them separately. So I always advise to use as little as possible. I think more is less, and then you're able to control your layers a bit more. Okay, you're welcome, Samantha. I missed the sticky note part, Shanice. Oh, Candice. Okay, so I can just go back over that quickly. The sticky note part is how you create a new layer, right? At the bottom here by the trash bin, there's a little teeny sticky note thingy, and you can just hit it and it creates a new layer for you. So that's basically all what you miss. Yeah, so yeah, Daniela was just explaining that. Thank you, Daniela. All right, awesome. So that's where we are. I'm going to go back to my notes now. So we see that we're looking at the tailor here. All right. So the term I have will this be recorded and then available? Yes, it will, Atalia. Yes, it will. So we have the tailor layer selected and it's completely obstructing his arm. We're not seeing what's behind here. Now let's say we don't want it to be invisible, but we don't want it to be 100% solid. What do you do? So you go up to the opacity right here in the layers panel, opacity. You can either be like me and just drag until you get somewhere that you like, or you can alternatively, you can fill in, let's say we want it at 50% and type in 50 and press enter. It's now at 50%. Or you can click that little arrow at the side and you can drag this until you find something that you like. I find it a little easier to just type in what you want, 50%, instead of having to drag, because it's not always accurate. So that is how you change the opacity of a layer. That's basically how transparent or the layer is, right? So next will be resizing your layers. Now we see that the two moving and resizing layers. So we see that the two layers, they're up there, but there's not, the space between the top and the bottom is different. And if you are, a little OCD like me, you're gonna be like, no, I want the same space at the top as I want at the bottom. Now, once you have the auto select layer available, you can literally click and drag and select both layers, or you could do a control or command and click both layers to select them both. So we have both layers selected right now. And all you do is you just move them. Those pink lines that you see are guidelines. So with that one going right across the screen, you can see that your images are perfectly centered now. So now you have both layers having the space at the top and the bottom be equal. So your design looks a little bit more balanced now. You're saying, okay, maybe they're too small. We can select them again, right? In earlier versions of Photoshop, you used to have to hold down the shift key to proportionally scale images. Now you don't have to do that. What you can do to transform, and this is called transforming in Photoshop. Now, the long way would be to select them, go to edit, and hit free transform, and then you can use, like if you've used Word, Publisher, anything like that, it's basically the same thing where you pull out like this to make them bigger, or you pull in like this to make them smaller. To get that done, an easier way is to just click on the side there and you're just able to transform them. Also, if that doesn't work for you, Control or Command and the letter T will make them transformable. So now in this version of Photoshop, you can just pull to make them bigger. And just pull down and boom. There you are, your layers are resized. Now, when it comes to resizing layers, especially pictures, you have to be very careful. You can make them as small as you want, but try not to stretch a layer too much, especially if it's a picture, and it will become pixelated and it's gonna look a little ghetto, right? Previously, when you're in other versions of Photoshop, if you don't hold down the shift key, this is what happens. However, right now they've updated it so that you don't have to hold the shift key, because there's nothing worse than when you see a design and a picture is stretched out like this or squeezed in like that. It doesn't look good. Once you finish transforming your layer, you just hit the enter key and it will be transformed for you. So that's how you resize and move your layers. In terms of rotating, if for some reason you want these to be upside down, you can either do it up here where you see that little thing that represents an angle. You can type in how much you want it rotated. If you want it rotated 180 degrees, if you want it rotated 90 degrees, 45 degrees, you can do that. Or you can put your cursor right there until you see it turn like that, until you see it give you that little bent cursor. And then you can manually turn it around if you'd like. And if you want to turn it around in known angles, that's when you hold down the shift key. So if you're rotating, you hold down that shift key and you can actually get a proper 90-degree manually. You can get a proper 180, you can get another 90, and you would have done a full 360 just like that. But I find it a little more effective, especially if you're working with multiple layers that you may not rotate at the same time, for you to just set your rotation in the transformation toolbar. That is also very important. So up here now, just very quickly, because I really don't pay that much attention to these things. I just drag my things where I need them to be. But if you're very finicky or nitpicky with certain things, you can actually put in X and Y coordinates the way they are. I do enough math in class, so I am definitely not interested in doing that. But at times you may have to. So let's say, for instance, I make a mistake, or I'm doing somebody else's work, and I see that there are 2 layers, but I don't know where the layers are, and I want to get them back over here. Instead of dragging, and I'm having an issue dragging them. I'm having an issue. You see, I'm trying to drag and it's not dragging. What you can do is Control T to do your transform, and on the, I don't even know which one is which. Yes, the x-axis takes it left or right. So if you go, the more negative you go is the more to the right you go. So you can just adjust your x-axis to move it left or right, and you can adjust your y-axis to move it up or down. I know literally no one will do this because none of us care about x or y axes. So Semantic says she's not seeing those options. When you have to select both of the layers you want and do the transform. So you select both of the layers, right? Yeah, Liana, definitely not about that life. Transform. You hit the one of the squares on the side. Any of the squares on the side will trigger the transform toolbar, and you'll see your x-axis and your y-axis here. You can set your width and you can set your height as well. So between the width and the height here, you have a little chain link. And what the chain link does, it maintains your aspect ratio. So what your aspect ratio is see how it is there? You have to just adjust one thing. So if I want the height to be 20%, the width will also become 20%. If I unlock that, I have to do them both. Manually. But once it's locked, that's cute. They will both update to the same thing, so they maintain that same shape no matter how you put the width or the height. They will maintain the shape that they are in. All right, so is everybody with me so far? Everybody following? Have you been sorting out our minor issues? Yes.
Can you repeat that thing with the width and height that you were just doing?
No problem, Liana. So once you select your layers and you trigger the transform toolbar up here by clicking one of the sides or using your Control T or Command T, you will see a W and an H with its width and height. It's calculated in percentage, not pixels, percentage. So now they're at 100%. This is a size, if you say, okay, I want these to be a bit smaller, you make sure that this little chain link is selected. So then when you do, let's say you want them at 50%, they're both at 50%. Both width and height are at 50%. So you don't have something being 50% wide, but 100% in height.
Oh,
So
okay.
if I don't have that selected and I put that back, you get that issue I was talking about earlier, where your pictures look squished or too stretched. So always make sure you have that chain link selected if you want your things to maintain the same aspect ratio. Anna, how do I select layers? So there are 2 ways to select your layers, Anna. We're just gonna circle back on that for a minute. So you can either go over to your layers panel and click the layers you want selected. Like when you're clicking documents, you say you want to select multiple documents, you can do a control click to select 2. If you have a lot of layers and you want to select them all going down, you select the first one and you shift click the last one and everything will be selected. Alternatively, you can just drag your mouse over the two of them. You see, you get those those are called like marching ants. You get those little marching ants over them, and they're both selected. Once you have auto select right here, set to layer. So once you have that, that is how, those are 3 ways that you can select your layers. You're good now, Anna? Nice for listening time. Thank you. Okay, great. So now we're going to go a bit into some text layers. So as I said earlier, when you are typing text, it automatically creates a layer for you. Now to get your text, you can either hit the T button, the letter T, that selects the text, or you can click text in your horizontal text in your toolbar over here. So once you see that the cursor turn to that you know you have your text selected. So then all you do is you click. You can do that. I'm not going to go into text boxes and so, because right now we're really talking about layers. So as you can see now, I have a brand new text layer. So I'm going to type something in here. Handmade. And then you see when you click out or you select your, so if your enter key with text, you can't commit your text with the enter key. So then what you'd have to do is either you click out of the layer like that, or you click the tick button on top here, that check mark on top here. So you have your layer of text, and whatever you type, that automatically becomes the name of the layer. So we're going to do a second layer on the handmade that says clothing, handmade clothing. All right. Now you're trying to select these two, but oh my God, everything is being selected. You don't want that. So let me zoom back in for you. So we're here now. You're trying to select just the text because that's not where you want your text to go. Now, everything is being selected and you don't want that. So what you can do is you select all the layers that you want to lock. Select all the layers that you want to lock, everything except the text, and you hit this padlock button and all those layers become locked. So now when you're selecting, only your text is selected. Now, this has nothing to do with layers, but this is a cute little cheat that you can use for Photoshop. If you look at the top here, when you have your text layers, you will see alignment tools. These are called, right here, these are called alignment tools. Now, if you want them to be perfectly centered, like aligned horizontally, you can click this one. So now you see that clothing moved over just a little bit. So now they're perfectly aligned. If you want them aligned to the left, you hit that one. And if you want them aligned to the right, you hit that one, right? So we're gonna just align it to the right, just like that. And we're going to drag it over here. Now, if you're doing stuff for print, you always have to have a bit, like maybe a 1/4 inch around for cutting purposes, right? So you make sure you have a little space at the end. You don't want your text running away. So we have this here. And okay, looks fine to me, but what if I wanted the clothing to look a little different without, having to change my font? Now, what layers have are layer styles. So there are quite a few layer styles. We're not going to go in depth today, but I'm just going to show you the one that I fell in love with when I first started using Photoshop. So make sure your text is in white. If your text is, it's really a simple fix that you can go to your, if your screen looks like mine, you can just go to the character bar right here, and it opens all of this for you, where you can change your font, the font size, the color, text transform, and all of that. If you're not seeing that window, you go, once again, you go to Windows, and you make sure character is ticked off if you're not seeing that. If you're not seeing what I have here, go to Window and ensure that character is picked. So that brings up that character panel over there for you. So I just want to edit clothing. You see why it's important to have layers? Because if I had all three words on the same layer, I probably have to edit all of them the same. Now, because I have clothing separated from handmade, I can make it stand out as a layer. So what I will do is I'm going to double click on the layer. I'm going to pause right here to make sure everybody is with me so far. Everybody's with me so far? You seeing what I'm seeing?
I am trying to be with you.
Okay, what can I do to make you be with me a little better?
Me too.
When I was clicking the text, it was taking a while to come on. It wasn't coming up, so I'm just trying to catch up right now.
Okay, no problem. No problem at all. I see Judah is trying to do what I'm doing. Awesome. Daniela is with me. Travell has a question. He says the answer is probably yes. But I asked, is it a watermark feature or tool? Actually, actually, to do a watermark, what you do is it's not as clear cut as in Microsoft Word. I have a logo watermark that I use to put over client work so these people don't steal my designs and don't pay me. But I had to create that using a brush. Alternatively, you can use, if you want to do a lot of photos at the same time, if you're editing a lot of photos at the same time or some sort of document, you can use batch processing. That's a whole other kettle of fish there. But there are things you can do to quickly and easily watermark a whole bunch of things. So you can use batch processing to do that, or you could use Photoshop actions to do that as well. So there are quite a few different ways that you can do a watermark in Photoshop, right? No problem. So hopefully in the next series we can can kind of delve into stuff like that. Right. So Judah, who was it that was having an issue? Candice, how are we getting through, Candice?
I kind of a bit behind. For the text part, I was wondering, how did you add it? Like, I touched the text box, and I was wondering, if we already have that font, or can I just put the text box there and write it in, and then make it bigger or something?
Yeah. So let me backtrack for you a little bit because I want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So to add the text, I'll leave my text right here. You hit the text icon on the toolbar. You see that your cursor comes up. You click.
Wait, on the side? The two bars on the side, right?
Yeah, on the left side. Those tools on the left side. You see a letter T?
Yeah.
Right, you click your letter T. Now you come back to the main composition.
Mm-hmm.
And then you click and you will see like you see what I have here, like a lorem ipsum text come up. What this is placeholder text.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just type over that. You can type anything you want over that. How do I get that font? So this font is actually Montserrat. It's free online. All you have to do is Google Montserrat font family free, and you'll be able to get that Montserrat font.
Also, you have to download all your fonts in Adobe.
You are not in Adobe per se. Adobe has their own font thing going on, but I try to just use as much free fonts as possible because I'm incorrigible and I have like a whole ton of them that I don't even use. But yeah, you can download them online from thefont.com, 1001 font squirrel. You can literally just do a Google search for like, if you see a font that you like, ask for the name, Montserrat font free or something like that. A lot of fonts that you see me using they're mostly free. I think Montserrat is one of them you can get for free online.
And what size is that? Because like mine is really small.
Mine is 145.62 points. So you're seeing my screen right now, right? Still see my screen?
Yeah.
So you see where my mouse is, see where my cursor is?
Where?
Right at the top, on the right side.
Oh, on the right side of the top.
You're seeing that? Do you have that panel open?
Is that in the layers thing?
Above layers. It's called
Okay.
the panel. You have that open?
Yeah, I think I see like colors. Can I show you what I have on my screen to see if I'm on the right track?
Yeah, sure thing.
All right. Oh, so the whole you cannot share. Right. So can I be given permission to share or?
Bobby, can you give Candice permission to share her screen for me? I'm gonna stop sharing so you can share.
Oh, okay. Thank you for being patient.
No problem at all.
Mhm.
Bobby, you there?
Oh yeah, you have to
Can you
stop
see my
here for
screen?
her
I
to
stopped
share.
already. Yeah, okay, now I see. And Gardner
Let's
started
see if
sharing
it's
hers.
it.
Okay, so what you do for me, what I want you to do for me, right, Candice? I see what you have there. Go
Mhm.
over to window at top on the top by on the top where you see file, edit, image, etc.
Let me move the Zoom thing because it's about me. All right. So window.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And then select character. Right. So I see what you can do, right? What you can do to make your workspace a little more organized. You see exactly where your mouse is. You're going to drag, you're going to drag that to the right. Yeah. Drag, no, not everything. Right at the top. Oop,
This.
right. Yeah, you can do that for now. Yeah. So drag all of that. Drag, keep dragging, keep dragging. Okay. Okay. And you can let go.
Mhm. I can draw what is the two one two or
Yeah.
yeah. Also, everything in Adobe can move. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So you can move everything to really suit
Oh,
what
okay.
is easier for you. So it doesn't have to be right on top of your work. Because if you have your panels on top of your work, what happens? You get a little confused sometimes,
Mhm.
right? So now that where's the character panel? Where did it go? Okay, yeah, that letter A right there.
All right, hold on.
So you have your layers panel, go across, you see a letter A.
Right here.
Yeah, so you hit that, that's the character panel. So with that, you can edit the size of your text, the color of your text, whether it's gonna be bold, italic, everything. Yeah, so one,
Okay. You can edit it up here. It's only by here.
you can edit it both places.
Oh, because when I was seeing it up here, it wasn't working. Okay.
Yes, it's a bit easier from the character panel there. And to change the color, you see color right there. Just double click on that and white. Right. So there you go.
All right. So once I download that font, it will just pop up in Adobe, right?
Yeah, it should.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
My screen now.
All right, so you can stop sharing. I can go back to sharing mine now. Share screen, layer basis. All right, so we are back to, how could you guys hold for me for just 1 second?
Okay, so while our presenter whole, let's just interact. How great was that? As in, how great is that going? It's going really good. As in, I'm learning so much. I always wanted to take in Shania. She always been running from me. As in, whenever I do design, so some of my design, I would show it to her, right, and say, Shania, what you think about this? And then she would say, hey, this is excellent, or she would say, oh, we see if you can tweak the color, if you can color balance it more, see if you can adjust this, see if we can move this, see if we can use a different font, bring out this type of effects. As in, it's really good if you have someone who is interested in graphic design as you or the creative arts, because it would boost you as a creative person or a creative director. Shani, you're back.
Yes, I'm back, and Liana says she's getting through. That's great, Liana. I'm really glad you're getting through and that you're learning a lot. Okay, awesome. That's the goal. That's the goal. What is the thing you were doing that needs white text? Okay, yeah. So I didn't finish that dude up. We went back to help Candice a little bit with her text. So now we're gonna do that. So what we're going to do with the clothing is we're going to play with the layer styles a bit here, right? So I've seen a lot of work coming from people that have a lot of things like strokes and shadows and bevel and embossed text. Now, this is yeah. So what this window does, right? It gives you not only layer styles. How to get here? You just double click the layer, right? Let me go back just to make sure everybody is following how I got there. On the outside right here, not on the name, anywhere off of the name, you just double click, or you can right click and go to blending options if that's easier for you. It's taking a while to come up. Computer embarrassing me here, man. All right. So we're going to look into some layer styles. Me personally, I'm not a fan of bevel and embossed text. I think this looks like you're in 1999. And if I see any artwork with anybody doing this, I am going to just roll my eyes and be like, yeah, no. You need to, yes, Judah, very ghetto. You said it, not me. But yes. So that's not something I like to do. But what you can do if you're trying to give it like a glossy kind of look, because sometimes, some flyers have this glossy kind of look, and you're not a professional like that, you can do a shortcut by using the bevel and emboss tool on the layer and just putting not the depth, the size all the way up, so you have a little bit of a gloss going on there. That's a really quick way to get something like that done. That's a really quick way. So make sure you click on it and you can just play with the size and the shading and stuff like that. I usually don't mess with this too much because it's something that you don't see in very modern design. My design style is very minimalistic, and I believe less is more. So you'll quicker see me have like a set of white text more so than a whole bunch of colors beveled and embossed. Sometimes you like to to make the text pop a little bit without doing too much. You can do a drop shadow, right? And just do something quickly like a drop shadow. So these are just some quick styles you can learn kind of on your own a bit, and you can play with. That's a far shadow. That's a close shadow. You can kind of play with how you want it to look, how far you want it to spread. So Liana says she does not sure what version she has. Yeah, you probably have maybe a later version of Photoshop than I do. I think I have either 2019 or 2020. So you may have an earlier version that doesn't have some of the things, because Photoshop and the other Adobe products, they update quite often. They take a lot of the feedback that us, the users, give them and put into the products. So for Liana, yeah, you may have a version that is a bit maybe behind, or maybe you have a better version than me. I'm not sure. Right? So that is something that you can do as well. So let's say this text was not text and it was something you imported and you couldn't change it. You can always do something that's called a color overlay. All you have to do is take that box, go inside there, and you pick a color. Let's say we pick a dark, like a yellow or something that will you can actually see. Need to move this real quick so I can see it. Oops. And there's the chat. Okay. Yellow. So you've made your text yellow now. To remove any of these, all you have to do is untick. So that's the beauty about layers. When you do the layer styles and layer options, they're not permanent. You can always undo them. So if you're just playing around and you want to see how something will look, you can do that. Now, with this, what we're going to do now is we're going to make the clothing stand out, but in a very minimal way. So what I want you to do is go back to blending options and the blend mode. you're going to click multiply. Your text is going to disappear, but do not be alarmed. Do not be alarmed, your text is going to disappear. So what the blending options do, I'm going to run through a couple more of them, is they have these automatic settings that will blend one layer on top of the other. So if you do an overlay, you get that sort of faded out kind of look without messing with the actual opacity of your layer. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make it an outline text because Montserrat does not have an outline version of the text. So you're going to hit multiply and it's going to disappear like, oh my God, where's my text? Don't worry. After you do that, in the blend mode right here, somebody saying something?
Yes, I can't get my worth clothing to do the thing to change color and color overlay like you did.
In the color overlay, what I did was make sure it's completely selected. Make sure it's completely selected like that and not just ticked off. So make sure it kind of is actually completely selected, like how you select the layer and you change the color over there.
So not just in a box, but highlighted,
Yes.
and then press back the two thing that you press it back over the layer part, like you said. Blending options. No, wait, that's right. Oh
No,
yeah, that's right.
yes.
And then color overlay.
Color overlay.
Then a blend mode, click the color box.
Yeah, click the color box and you choose whatever color that you want to choose. Because we're not keeping that. I was just showing you the different layer styles that you can use.
Not changing.
It's not changing?
Okay, it's changing now.
Changing now? Awesome.
Could you continue from there? I missed everything after that because it wasn't changing.
No problem. So you didn't miss much. I went up to the blending options and I changed the blend mode from normal to multiply. What the blend modes do is that they give certain effects. I'll go into a different document and show you blend modes in action. Actually,
Thank you.
I can actually do it on this document, but when we're finished with what we're doing here. So we go to multiply and it will disappear. Once it has disappeared, you know you've done it right. After it's disappeared, we're going to go to stroke, right? Make sure it's selected. And you kind of start to seeing it, but not really. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the color of that stroke to white. So now you're seeing it outlined, right? You don't change anything else right now. You have it outside, the blend mode is normal, 100% opacity. You're gonna change the thickness of the stroke to about, let me zoom in and see because my eye's not good, right? To about 3 px, 3 pixels. And now that is how it should look. Did anybody accomplish this? Yes, Samantha, good job, Samantha. Faith, 3 too thick. My font is too thick. Okay, so Judah is saying 3 is too thick. All you can do is slide up and down until it works for you. If 1 is fine for the font that you're using, then that is perfectly fine. But because I have kind of like a bold font that I'm working with, I have to use like a thicker line. So if your font is a thin font, you can use like 1 or 2. The 2 might be too much, you can just use 1. But take it to a place where it will look good on your font and it will look congruent, basically. So yeah, this is one of my favorite ways to use blend modes and layer styles. Now, as you can see, now the layer looks a bit different. Let's follow. Daniela did not get the software. You're not able to do it, but she's still following. Hopefully you get the software, Daniela, and you can watch this over and follow along once it's on YouTube, right? So now you see that the layer looks a bit different. It has some things under it, right? And it has that FX thing there. That means effects. What effects are in play? So if you want to remove all of the effects, same thing about toggling the visibility. You just hit that and all of the effects are pretty much removed. Now, As you can see, I'm looking at clothing here. And the clothing layer, and you can see this says multiply. You can actually change your blend mode from right in the layer panel, right? Right in the layer panel, you can change your blend mode. So our blend mode is multiply, and we have our stroke applied, and that's just a quick way of, you know, using layer styles and effects to play with your layers. If you're like me, I usually just close this so everything is the same size. Now we've basically finished with our text layer. No problem. So we're gonna lock them now because we don't want to move them. We're going to go down to our—
Can you quickly repeat the very last thing that you did?
locking the layers.
No, right before that, actually.
What did I do again? Oh, yes. Reveal the layer effects. So if you go to the side of the clothing layer now, you should see the letters FX and an arrow. If you click on the arrow, you can hide all of that, or you can choose to show it. For me, I usually hide it, but you can keep it open if that makes it easy for you to work with.
Okay, thank you.
You're most welcome. Right, so we have those layers locked. Everything is locked. So we're unlocking pattern right now, right? And what we're going to do, and this might be a little much, but it's just really to, you may not be able to follow along with this one, but you can definitely take a look. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide the tailor layer, or we're going to hide the cloth layer. I see this bag or whatever it is he's cutting out, and it's white. We can hide the other two text layers while we're at it, so we can focus on this. The thing that he's cutting out is white. Okay, maybe we're saying that's a little boring, right? We're gonna go back to, we can either, let me just create a new layer. We're creating a new layer. We're gonna do this in two ways. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna change the color of the bag using the layer, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to create a new layer above pattern. We're going to name it bag. We're going to go over to our tools. We're going to take our brush, and we're going to choose a color. Once again, I'm going to use the Five Islands teal for this. Patrick Star. Is your name actually Patrick Star? That's hilarious. How do you create a new layer? To create a new layer, you can use this little sticky note thing at the bottom here, which will automatically create a new layer for you. You can go up to the layer option in the toolbar, and you can go to new layer, new. It's not coming up for me for some. Oh, I have a modal open. That's why. So layer, new, and then you hit layer. And then your layer modal will pop up, and you can just create a new layer like that as well. So those are two ways that you can create a layer. Not the eye fade, the sticky note. What the eye does is that it hides or shows the layer. That's what the eye does. So did you get that, Patrick? Not seeing the sticky note. The sticky note is all the way to the bottom. The second to last icon on the bottom. I do. Okay. The audio. Oh, okay. Are you hearing me? Are you guys hearing me properly now?
Not really. I feel like a artist kind of sound over your voice. Like that's why it sound distorted.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Let me see. Okay, is that better? Okay, excellent. All right. So now that we have our new layer above pattern, we're going to take our brush, and we're going to zoom in a little bit. I'm not gonna do it, perfectly at this point in time. It's just to demonstrate how you can use the blending options for layers. So I'm just gonna take my brush and just brush over this a little bit. It's not gonna be perfect, but so you're saying, okay, I just brushed over the whole bag. I can't see anything. Okay, that's where that's where your blend mode comes in. So multiply is a good one to use because you can actually see the folds and the creases in the bag, and you see that the bag has changed color. So you have a few of them you can pick from, but multiple linear light is not too bad. For me, I just kind of toggle through them to see which one gives the effect that I really want. Candice is having a problem. 1 second, Candice. So you can do multiply, and then you can play with the opacity a little bit. And now the bag is green. You can use your eraser tool or your pen tool or whatnot to kind of clean up your edges if you like. I kind of messed up the white a little bit there, but yeah, I mean, it's just for demonstration purposes. Clean up your edges. And you've now changed the color of the bag without actually messing with that layer. So if you decide you want to keep your bag white, you can remove that. If you decide that you want to keep it, you want to make it another color, you can then put it back. We're gonna open back. What's going on with you, Candice?
All right, so I was trying to use a brush, but it's saying that this type layer must be rasterized before
Okay.
proceeding.
Did you remember to create a new layer before you use the brush?
How do I
change the color of the bag? Well, I had a layer
how
that.
do I get my eraser to be bigger?
Hold on 1 second, Ramona. But Candice, your when you're using the brush tool, especially, you create a brand new layer to use it in. So even though you have layers before, you're trying not to have too much content on one layer. So you create a brand new layer, and then you can use the brush tool on it.
Okay, I'm gonna try that.
Try that one and let me see. I think Ramona was asking, how do you get your eraser to be bigger?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the best way to do that is, for me personally, is to use your keyboard and the square brackets.
Square brackets.
Yeah, the square brackets and the curly brackets after the letter P.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so the one on the left is to make it smaller, and the one on the right makes it bigger. The one,
Okay, thank you.
it worked for you?
Yes, it did.
Awesome. So Patrick wants to know how to change
And
the cursor.
and how do we get the multiply that you were saying after we color the bag to get it to show all the creases?
You see where my mouse is?
No, one moment.
Yeah, look at
Where your
this.
mouse is? Yes.
Right there. Please select multiply from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Most welcome. Patrick, how to change the cursor on the brush tool? You mean change the size of the cursor, Patrick, to make it bigger or smaller? Yeah, okay, same thing with the eraser. The two curly and square bracket buttons right after the letter P. The one on the left makes it smaller, and the one on the right makes it bigger. No problem at all. All right, so we've pretty much gone through most of the basic things with layering in Photoshop. Now, another thing that we can do, we're gonna unlock, repeat. Oh, let me repeat in terms of how to make your cursor bigger or smaller with the brush or the eraser. There are 2 ways you can do that. The easiest way for me, honestly, is to use my keyboard and to use after the letter P on the keyboard, you have the curly and straight bracket buttons. The one on the left, right after the letter P, makes it smaller. And the one on the right, after that one, makes it bigger. Now, if you're having a problem where you're not seeing what I'm seeing here, ensure that your caps lock is off. If your caps lock is on, you won't be able to see the size of your eraser or brush. You'll just see there's the crosshair, that crosshair cursor. Make sure your caps lock is off, then you'll be able to see the size of your brush or your eraser. All right. So we're good to go so far? You're most welcome. All right, excellent. Right, we're getting there, we're getting there, we're getting there. So another thing that we can do now, I've unlocked all of the layers except the background layer, right? I've unlocked all of the layers except the background layer. And what we're going to do is we're going to create groups. What groups will help you to do is to control content that is similar, right? So, and for the bag and the pattern, you select them both and you can create groups in two ways. You can right click and you can select group from layers. You can name your group, which would be pattern and bag. That's the first way. You can add a color to it like we did previously. Let's make it red. Right. So now it's in a group. So you can actually, when you toggle the visibility, you are toggling both items at the same time. When you're moving it, you should be moving two items at the same time, but that didn't happen. In order to do that, you go back up to where we have auto select and you auto select the group. If you're working with groups, especially like those really complicated flyers, a lot of them have a lot of groups. So you're working in groups now, so you can move the entire group at the same time and you can lock the entire group as well. Once you lock the group, the contents of the group will be locked as well. So now we have tailor and cloth. Another very quick way to make a group. You select the layers you want in the group and you go Control G and you've created a group. Control on Windows and Command on Mac. You double click it and you can rename it accent photos or whatever. You can change the color. Let's change it to yellow. Now we have clothing and handmade. We want all the text in one group. Once again, you can go down here. That's the third way to create a group. You can go down here next to the just before to create a new layer, and you can create a new group. You can just hit that, and then you can rename your group to text layers. Right? Now, everything is in a group. Everything is together the way we want them to be together. Our ad is almost done. Okay, but you want to change something about the back photo. Something about the back photo. Maybe it's not bright enough. So you're gonna open. You're gonna open the group, right? And you're gonna select that. Select the bottommost photo, the pattern. Now you see that there are quite a few other layers here, layer tools here. We're going to do an adjustment layer. Now, what an adjustment layer does is that it makes an adjustment to the layers under it and the layers under it only. So you're not editing the entire look of the document. So we're going to add an adjustment layer. So it's that little circle with the line going through it. Yeah, the black and white circle just before the group icon at the bottom. Leanna, I just got kicked out for about 3 minutes now. How much did I miss? You didn't miss too much, Leanna. We went into how to create a group. Essentially, you select the layers that you want and you click this little folder at the bottom and it creates a group for you. Or alternatively, you select the layers that you want and you click Control G and it automatically creates a group for you as well. So all we went through in the last 3 minutes was basically the 3 different ways to create a group, right? Or you can select both of the layers, you right click and you hit group from layers. So that's what we did just now. Where we're at now is that we're at adjustment layers. So we have pattern selected and we select this circle at the bottom here, right at the bottom. And we're going to make it a little brighter. I missed yesterday's session. What's the next step? Hi, Chad. Next step where Not sure where you're talking from. You can actually unmute your mic and let me know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, afternoon. I missed yesterday's session. Like I missed, what can I, how can I get what I missed yesterday? Is there a place that the videos will be uploaded? Is there a recording and whatever?
Yeah, they will be on, there should be that one from yesterday should be on YouTube because I think I watched some of it already.
Oh, so you're on the website? YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. All right.
Yeah.
Let me just answer this. All right, Chad, you can go on our YouTube page. That's UA Commuting Students Office on YouTube. You should find the previous recording there.
Oh, all right. That's what.
All right.
All right, awesome. So we're at adjustment layers. So we select the brightness and contrast adjustment layer, which is right here, right? So we're saying that the back photo is maybe a little dull for your taste. What you can do, you're adjusting the brightness. And you can make it darker, you can make it brighter. And as you can see, this is the only layer that is being affected. So these adjustment layers, they allow you to edit just the layer that you want to edit. They allow you to add adjustments like brightness and contrast and different photo editing and stuff like that to these layers. So with an adjustment layer, you can adjust the brightness, you can adjust the contrast, you can, that same thing I did with the bag, you can actually do it with an adjustment layer as well, right? So adjustment layers are very useful when it comes to like, especially those hyper realistic flyers you're trying to get. Maybe one of the items is not as bright as the other, and you're trying to brighten up that item only. An adjustment layer is very, very useful to do things like that. So do we understand how adjustment layers work? Oh, thanks for the link, Liana. Not fully, Liana says not fully. So essentially with the adjustment layers, what you can do is you're adding a layer above another layer that only affects the layers under it, right? So let's say I want to move this brightness and contrast. Currently, one moment, Antonio, I'll get to that in 1 second. So currently I have it over the pattern layer, and you can see I'm going to toggle it on and off, and you can see the adjustment there. Now I realize I have it on that layer, but then I don't have it over the color change, and the color change looks a little weird now because the picture at the bottom has changed. All you can do is drag it up, and now you see that it adjusts both layers. So only the layers underneath of an adjustment layer are adjusted. That's why it's called an adjustment layer. So only the layers that fall underneath of an adjustment layer are actually adjusted. So is that a little clearer for you, Liana? Awesome. Okay, so we have Antonio asking, how do you remove an already applied adjustment layer? That's the beauty about layers. You can either just hide it like that, by clicking the toggle visibility, little eyeball thing on the side there, or you can simply delete it. If you really, really don't want it, you can just delete it. That's the beauty about working with layers, is that because you have an individual layer for everything that you're doing, you can just remove things one by one without compromising your entire design. Was that what you're asking, Antonio? Okay, awesome. That is definitely what he was asking. Sweet. All right. So essentially, that is, if I'd like you to work on a personal project, would it be possible to get your assistant? Yes, of course it will. That's kind of what I was kind of going to segue into next, working on projects. So let me get to Liana first. I understand how adjustment layers work, but how did you create that layer? Okay, I hear you. So what you do to create an adjustment layer, I'm just gonna go over this again, is it is the little circle. If you look where my cursor is, that little hand cursor right there, is that little circle that says, when you hover over it, it says create a new fill or adjustment layer. You click that and you select what you want to select. Now we're going to do another one just for demonstration, black and white. So you want the other two pictures in color, but you want this one in black and white. So you have a black and white layer right here. So you've created that layer. So it only affects the layers at the back. So you go here to create a new adjustment or fill layer, and you select the type of adjustment that you would like. Is that good for you now, Liana?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Awesome, no problem. All right, so you can just remove. Yeah, so you can just remove that one. Yes, remove that one. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, so the best way to reach me would probably be via email. I'm going to digitl.com. I just sent my email. Oops. Yeah, Tanya. Just sent my email in the chat. That's the best place to reach me. I usually check my emails pretty frequently because you won't stop emailing me as well. So I have to check it every single day. So there's so there's that. And what we're going to do, I know we were speaking about layers. What we're going to do, I'm going to open one of my personal projects I did in Photoshop that has quite a few layers in it, and show you how I basically work with layers in my personal projects. Hope I don't have any weird stuff in my download folder. If I do, I'm sorry in advance. See you for giving me that. Okay, so I'm gonna try to find, what's the name of these people again? Top Shelf Events, yeah. So last carnival and the carnival before that, I would have done some work for clients of mine, and they had this event called Ripple. And I would have created the flyer for Ripple in Photoshop. So this was created in Photoshop. Like right now, if I'm doing like a, see like this, if I'm doing like a super like hyper realistic, realistic design, I've started to use Illustrator. Yes, I did do the Ripple flyer. I did all of the Top Shelf events flyers for Carnival last year and year before that. Thank you, Travell. Yeah. So I do the graphics for these events. So we're gonna look over into my layer panel here. And you know, after a while, I gave up with the color thing because it's a whole ton of layers. But I have quite a few layers. I have my background layer, and I did not touch my background layer in terms of changing the colors. The background layer, I left it there. What I did is I added a rectangle, a shape layer, and I gave it the color that I needed it to be. Now these water droplets as well. These are the water droplets you see. That is another layer. I don't even know what that is. And then we have our text layers. We have nearly all of the text layers are separate layers, because as you can see, we have text all over the place. And if you have too much layers in a group as well, you have to be going into the group, editing in the group. So that's why it's important to have your layers and have your layers organized. So we have the water droplet here. I'm going to unlock it for the purposes of this tutorial. How much time did this take? Way too much. Way too much. Because I believe in less is more, but I have to do a lot more to get to less. If you understand what I'm saying. No, it's not really seconds for me, because a lot goes into a lot of thought. A lot of it is thought going into how you're going to put it together. So a lot of storyboarding, and you know what fonts to use. I'm going to toggle through all 600 fonts and then go and download a brand new one because I'm a terrible person. So a lot of times it takes a lot of the small minute details is what takes a lot of time. So with the water droplets, you see it has a second, like kind of a secondary layer. That's called a layer mask. And yes, enough time. So what I did with a layer mask, and how you can add a layer mask, is this thing, right? This rectangle with the circle is you're adding a mask. And what you can do with the mask, I'm going to disable it for a second, right? You see all of these at the bottom here, everything is the same. And what the layer mask did is the words, the droplets that were around the text, I lightened them a bit so they would not be obtrusive to the text. So you can use these things to adjust your layers. All of these objects right here, like the curry bottle, the champagne bottle, the pineapple, the drink, everything is on a separate layer. Now this layer here with the sunglasses, this one was a very interesting layer to work with, right? So what I did was what is called a clipping mask. I got a photo. Let me disable the layer. So that is the photo. And I only wanted the photo to show inside of the shades. So what I did is I got the photo, I created a layer mask, and I kind of, erased out, brushed out some of the parts that I didn't want to be shown in the photo. And I hit my Alt button. I think Alt is option on Mac. Alt. And you see that little box. You get to see that little box with that arrow pointing down. What that creates is a clipping mask. It clips the top layer to the bottom layer. So all you're seeing inside of the shades is the photo with the hands of the people. You're not seeing it all over. You don't have to use your eraser and erase around. There's something called a clipping mask. You can do it layers, but that's a little more, advanced. But I'm just showing you the types of things you can do with layers and how they're important to kind of speeding up your workflow. Because if I had to go around that with an eraser, I'd have just probably changed my mind. I would have just probably changed my mind. Would love to learn this in detail. Hopefully that's the next step. And we can go into, oh, there goes my earring. We can go into some greater detail because one of the most important things besides, layering and stuff is that there's like color theory, font pairing, choosing the right images, where you can get images from. So hopefully if I'm back for a next session, we can do that. Karina St. Hill asks, how did you do the text? Which one of the texts, Karina? The Ripple or the Carnival Blues Cruise? Ripple? Okay, so I actually created the Ripple text in Illustrator. This is the official Ripple logo now. I created it in Illustrator. I think the font, what font is this? I have so many. I think that is, I'm going to tell you right now because I'm still supposed to have it somewhere in here. If I see it, I will remember. Because the text is actually already rasterized. And by rasterized, I mean basically flattened. I can't edit it anymore. So it's become like a vector object or like an image per se that you can't edit anymore. Surfing Capital? No, that's not Surfing Capital. I do not remember what font this is. If I do remember at some point in time, I will try to find somehow to let you guys know. But with the text for Ripple, it's actually a font. It's actually one of those free fonts that I found somewhere or the other. I put it together in Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, and I rasterized the text. I added like a shadow to them, added a different color, and I kind of twisted the letters and created an actual logo for Ripple. Yeah, so I tilted it myself. Yeah, so I kind of use, for these flyers especially, I kind of used a lot of both Illustrator and the Photoshop to get them where they are. And what I would have done is I would have imported all of the letters from Illustrator because every year I tilt them differently. So I import them one by one from Illustrator and tilt them how I want to have them tilted in Photoshop. So all of the Adobe products work pretty well together. If you ever have the time, if Yui ever gives me the time, Yeah, it'd be great to have more sessions like this in the future. I would be very glad to. I had a really great time as well. What's the difference between Illustrator and Photoshop? So Photoshop you use for a lot of like photo editing, as the name suggests. You can use it to do flyers and business cards and brochures as well. But Illustrator takes it a step further. I like to joke and say that Illustrator is Photoshop on crack, because it is just crazy the amount of things you can do. So like the pen tool, for instance, is much, much more advanced in Illustrator. And you can create, that's where I create logos, especially. Branding is something that I do in Illustrator, because with Illustrator, it's a bit easier to work with objects and vectors, and you can make them as big as you want as long as they're a vector image, make them as small as you want, and it gives you a lot more flexibility in your designing. But Photoshop is good if you're editing a lot of photos. Like if you have like a heavily photo based item like this, something like this is better served in Photoshop. How did you get the shadow over? Yeah, Aliyah, love Illustrator. Same. How did you get the shadow over the Carnival Boost Cruise? Okay, so for the Carnival Boost Cruise, I'm gonna put down the effects. It's actually an outer glow from the same effects panel that we opened earlier. It's actually an outer glow and a drop shadow. So like a purple outer glow and a dark purple drop shadow, I think, yeah. Oh, it's pink, purple, whatever. So it's at 57% opacity because you don't want it looking too campy. 57% opacity in the pink, and it is in black. Oh, it's actually a black drop shadow at 32% to make it pop off the page like that. So it's actually in the layer styles that I got that done. So those are some of the really, really cool things that you can do it. Yeah. So if anybody wants my email, I think I posted it earlier, but I can send it to you at any time. Let me send it to this person. Are we still hearing me? I was muted for a second. Yeah, so I'm gonna send it over again. What I'm gonna do as well, we can look at digital.com. I'll also send you guys a link to my website, and all my contact information is also on my website. Right here we have the, also, do if I know any good Adobe YouTubers. Unfortunately not, because I'm self-taught and I have a bit of a different style. So I don't watch too much like tutorials and stuff like that. So these are the other ones that were in the series of events. So something like this, once again, you can see with the, am I pointing at the screen like y'all can see me pointing? You can see the layering. Here we have a photo at the back. That's a regular photo at the back. And then you have the different layers. Lemonade. So all of these, for this fire here, for lemonade, you have, once again, the water droplets, and you have all of those lemon wedges are separate layers. They're all separate layers. They're the same lemon wedge in every single one of them, but rotated and sized different. We saw ripple. I think, yeah, tease. This is the other one. So those are some of the things there. I'll send in the chat now my portfolio. That's my, and Photoshop give you a transparent background. Ramona is asking. Yes, it can, Ramona. What you can do, I'm just gonna go back to the layers base because we are wrapping up because it's almost 4 o'clock. When I was asked to do this the first time, I'm like, what am I gonna talk about for 2 hours? And now it's 4 o'clock. So if you want a transparent layer in the back, you literally just, that background logo, you toggle the visibility and you turn it off. Once you see those check marks at the back, that checkered pattern at the back, that means your logo is transparent. That not your logo, that your work is transparent. And if you want to save it, you have to save it as a PNG file. You can't save it as a JPEG or it's not going to be transparent, right? All right, so that was layers for you, basics and a little advanced with the layers. I really hope everyone would have learned something today and you had as much of a good time as I did. It is now 4 o'clock, so we are wrapping up. Um, really enjoyed today's session, and I hope we can hopefully go in depth some more next time. Thank you. And remember that the session was recorded to the UE Mona Commuting Students official YouTube page. So if you missed anything or you like to go over something, you can catch the recording on the Commuting Students YouTube page as well. After the Photoshop sessions end, they can do Illustrator. You hear, Bobby?
Okay, so thank you. Let me take it over. Illustrator. I kind of have all of them, but Illustrator is for another session.
Yeah, but definitely for another session. But I mean,
Yeah,
I'm very keen to come back. So if you do need to do Illustrator sessions, I can be back for Illustrator sessions as well.
of course. You have a special place. You have a special place in my heart already. All right, guys. So let me get a 5 UE campuses shout out to UE5 Island. So I want you guys to blast the chat room. If you think that UE5 Island, Guild PCC done a great job, just blast the chat room, both on Zoom and on YouTube, because I do believe that she did a wonderful job. I couldn't have done it better myself. But yeah, it was a really, really good. So thank you so much for tuning into our second session of our Adobe Photoshop training session put on by the Commuters Publication Committee. We hope you learned a great deal and we can't wait to see you tomorrow. A special thanks to our presenter, Shani Imhoff, and to our team working behind the scenes to ensure we had a smooth delivery. Don't forget to follow our social media handles posted in the chat. The presenter for tomorrow's session will be none other than UAKville Public Relation Officer Ozazi Moraldo Boyen, and he will be showing you how to remove background from images, text in Adobe Photoshop. Right. So there will be a certificate of participation at the end of the conclusion of our session, and we are currently recording participants. So if you know that you have attended at least a one session, then there will be a certificate for you, right? So additionally, if you stay until the very end of all our session, then we will give you our Photoshop subscription link to participate in the Photoshop virtual summit 2. Yes, summit 2. They had a summit one early summer. It's a 40-hour session free from an unpicked group of expert Photoshop instructors. The session ranges from beginners to advanced, and the recording of each sessions are accessible for a 48-hour period. This is this is for all those creative students that would like to push what they have learned in our session to extreme levels. The event runs from November the 11th to 13, 2020, with classes going live starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, any closing remarks, Shania?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me. It was definitely a pleasure. I had an excellent time. When you asked me at first, I was like, what am I going to talk about for 2 hours? And now, my brain is overflowing with even more information. So if anybody would like to reach out, I posted my email in the chat as well as my website. And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at CMajor_268 if you want to reach out. I also check my social media pretty often. So if anybody would like to reach out, want to work on a project, need assistance with something, feel free to reach out.
Yes, that's wonderful also. And we're glad that you accepted our request. Again, my name is Bobby Smith, and I will see you tomorrow, same place, same time, as we continue to connect with all the campuses through Photoshop. And guys, remember to follow the social media pages for all of our participants, right? And if you want to like a one-on-one session, if you're free on the weekend and want like a one-on-one session, just email, just PM UE Commuters underscore PCC on IG. That's UE Commuters underscore PCC on IG, and we will reach out to you and see if we can schedule some one-on-one. Right? Nothing too big, right? So thank you again, guys. Thank you again. Look out for tomorrow. Boyan is coming. Boyan is coming, and he's coming good also. So thank you very much. Thank you, Shaniel, and big up Five Islands.
Yes, most welcome.